Chapter 9 has 2 new units up for grabs, but I need to do some house cleaning before we can begin. It's about time that we promoted Gilliam. I'd love to promote Ross here as well, but I seem to have forgotten that I don't have a hero's crest yet until Chapter 10. Gilliam gains a healthy dose of stats, 2 more points of movement, and the ability to utilize the full weapon triangle. I'm going to give Neimi the Angelic Robe on account of her pathetic 20 hit points. This should make it much safer for me to put her in danger, particularly once she tries her hand at using swords when she promotes into a ranger. I do some inventory management, but I should probably bring up Tana. You may have noticed her on the unit selection screen. She's a new unit that joined us this chapter. That means we finally get to do a unit evaluation again. It's been a while. Tana is what happens if you take Vanessa and raise all of her stats by a couple points. She's generally considered to be slightly worse than Vanessa since you get her much later in the game and she has to catch up in level. She's far too powerful to be used in this playthrough on account of how strong she becomes when trained, on top of the usual privileges of being a flying unit in Sacred Stones. Chapter 9 is much more difficult than anything we've done so far. We have to deal with a high number of aggressive enemies on top of their reinforcements while steadily advancing towards several times side objectives. Thankfully, the ocean seal we need for Colm is obtained off of an enemy pirate as opposed to getting it as a reward from one of the villages. I previously assumed it came from the left side village, which actually grants a Draco shield. This is very good news as the villages in this chapter are notoriously difficult to protect. The pirate on the top not only starts somewhat close to the village, but his AI is infuriatingly configured to only attack if you're holding hands with him. If you're even a single tile away, he'll completely ignore you in favor of rushing down the village. It's pretty much impossible to catch him unless you can run down the center of fast-mounted units, not something I really have. While this is theoretically possible for promoted Neimi in terms of the number of tiles in her movement range, we can't realistically make it work with our stats giving the existing swarm of enemies in addition to the reinforcements that will come in steadily from the top. I make the executive decision to completely abandon both villages. Without flyers to cut across the water or a unit like Seth to run down the middle, I would need to promote Neimi and dodge countless hits to have a chance at making it to the leftmost village without dying horribly. The lower village across the water is a completely lost cause since I don't have the ability to cross the water with a flyer or my own pirate who could swim there. Even if I were to bait out the 4 pirates near spawn to fight me on land, the center pirate in the water will always get to the lower village on turn 5. However, this doesn't mean I have the luxury to play slowly. There's still one more timed objective I need to go for. On turn 5, a recruitable unit will spawn in the southern crossroads, and she'll leave by turn 12 if we don't get there in time with Eirika. I clean up all of the top reinforcements before I proceed. There's a solid column of units advancing from the bottom, and I don't want to get caught on both ends. Thankfully, reaching the bottom of the map by turn 12 is a much easier side objective than protecting either of the 2 villages. I decide to position all of my combat units to take on this wave of aggressive enemies as soon as they approach. I could have Gilliam solo most of the enemies, but I don't think I could do that quickly enough in order to get Eirika to the bottom of the map on time. I'm actually getting a lot of use out of Colm and Neimi this chapter. I'm thinking I might promote Neimi after this chapter. She might hit around level 15 or so. Colm I'm feeling a bit more iffy on. He's sort of perpetually stuck at 7 strength, and I'm not sure how good his long-term prospects are. At the moment, Colm has been relying heavily on support bonuses to get plus free damage from his ace support of Neimi. Even if I stop relying on Colm for combat once I have more units, I think I'll always keep Colm around even if just to hold hands with Neimi to give her the damage bonus instead. I do plan to make more use of support bonuses in this playthrough, but I simply don't have very many viable units so far, and they just simply can't pair up with each other. However, the new unit I recruit at the end of this chapter will be a viable partner for Ross. By this point, I've gotten through a lot of the enemies. I'm obsessively checking my turn count to make sure I don't miss my timed side objective. Looking at my Colm, at 7 strength he's a couple points behind his average by now. He's even behind in speed, and while at 15 speed it might seem fast enough, it's kind of holding him back since he can't double everything I would like with a steel sword. I purchased an iron blade so I can squeeze out an extra point of damage over a steel sword on my sword wielding characters, but it's really heavy. I'm not sure if anyone will be able to use it effectively. However, I do think I want to find a use case for it because it gives double the weapon experience on hit, and Colm started this game with E sword rank. He's a little bit behind. As a reminder, that ruined village to the left that we missed was supposed to grant us a Draco shield, and the village on the right side was supposed to give Eirika a backup rapier. Unfortunately, we couldn't get either of these items. At 13 speed, my Gilliam is around 4 points above his average speed he would have at this level. The speed wings I obtain this chapter is going to be a real toss-up between Gilliam and Ross. I finally have Eirika in position to recruit Amelia on the next turn, which means it's time for another unit review. It's been a while since we got a bottom tier. Amelia is a trainee unit designed with level grinding in mind. She needs a lot of dedicated training to catch up to a point where it's possible to use her normally, which is increasingly difficult at this point of the game. With our no grinding restrictions, Amelia's absurdly low base stats makes her nearly unusable without creative gameplay. Despite what people think, Amelia's growth rates aren't very good, so she doesn't normally justify the effort under these conditions, but I will make the attempt at our only shot at using a Cavalier in our playthrough. And if any of you in the comments tell me that she's better as an Armor Knight, I'm going to flip you over a table. Amelia joins so weak that the fighters by her right immediately kill her in a single shot if she enters combat with them. It's going to be a real struggle to get Amelia trained up, and I think she'll be more or less unusable if I don't have her promoted by the end of the chapter. Thankfully, I have a plan. You see, Amelia only needs to kill a few enemies to get enough experience to get to level 10, assuming she does all the work. We just need to set up careful environments where she can duel them safely. Enemy soldiers have notoriously low base stats, meaning it's possible to 1v1 them with Amelia, provided that we heal her constantly. The enemy mercenaries and shaman are probably too dangerous for Amelia to take on, but I have my eye on the enemy archers on the top right corner. I want to be very clear that I don't categorize this style of slow gameplay and feeding kills as level grinding. You see, we're just making use of the available experience on the map. In fact, we're required by the map's objective to kill all of these units. I'm just choosing to give the available experience to the unit of my choice. Additionally, these enemy units have no way of restoring their health, so I can't use them as repeatable sources of experience. Once they're dead, they're dead. Since Sacred Stones has many options for infinite level grinding, I don't blame people for tiering characters based off the concept of a more efficient playthrough where you try to complete chapters quickly. However, you don't have to subscribe to that method of play. You can, in fact, manage to use weak units and slowly feed them kills without using any sources of infinite grinding. Of course, this isn't an argument where I'm trying to say that Amelia is good. I still consider her to be a bottom tier unit, however, she's not completely unusable. And for me, part of the fun of this low tier playthrough is to make a genuine attempt to use every single low tier for combat the best I can, so I'll be trying to train her up. Unfortunately, the training is going very poorly. You see, Amelia is only gaining defense. By this point, she hasn't gained a single point of strength or speed. It's not looking good. However, I have an idea. You see, archers can only attack enemies at 2 range. If you manage to completely surround an archer of units at 1 range, they won't be able to attack anything. And we can use this to our advantage to give Amelia as many free and safe hits as we need to get her to level 10. I send Gilliam forward to bait out the archers individually to draw one back towards my line. From there, it's a simple matter of drawing them back further and surrounding them. While this process of training Amelia has been both slow and unrewarding, it has been a rare opportunity for Natasha to get some valuable experience in. She's still pretty far behind compared to the rest of our units in level. I make a point of not trying to take excessive extra damage just for the purpose of giving Natasha experience. You could do so more or less indefinitely until the enemy's weapon breaks, and doing so is a form of grinding similar to boss abuse, I suppose. It's something I'm not really using for this playthrough. As a fun fact, Amelia starts with Slim Lance, but she doesn't need it that badly. She actually has a higher con stat than pretty much the entire rest of the female cast. Once she promotes at level 10, she'll end up with either 9 or 10 con, I believe. By this point, Amelia is pretty close to level 10. She has gained 0 points of strength, 0 points of speed, and 5 points of defense. At this rate, she's going to end up even weaker than Colm. I'm sort of starting to worry if using Amelia will even prove to be possible if her offensive stats never go up, but we have one more opportunity, and we get it. Finally, a single point of strength and a single point of speed. This incredibly long process of training Amelia during her join chapter has made this the longest chapter in terms of completion time in the challenge so far. Which means I am not looking forward to repeating this exact same process in chapter 12 when I get my next training unit. On account of Amelia's incredibly low strength stat, I started building up support ranks between her and Ross in an attempt to get a little bit more strength on the board. Let's be honest, she's going to need it. Having played this chapter at a snail's pace already, I decided to give the remaining kills of the mercenaries and archers to Neimi with the purpose of promoting her by the end of the chapter. With the 2 remaining archers and the boss, I should be able to reach level 15. The 2 enemy archers actually don't move, they're completely stationary, so taking them out is trivial. Having spent 40 real-life minutes on this chapter, despite having combat animations turned off, I am finally ready to take out the boss and call it victory. The boss has a very high strength stat, but it's not high enough to take out Neimi in one shot, particularly with the angelic robe we gave her at the start of the chapter. We gain one final level by taking out the boss, complete the chapter, and claim our reward. Thank you for watching.